Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Okay, today we're heading, metaphorically speaking, to Gloversville, New York. We're doing a deep dive into their urban renewal efforts, specifically this project called the Glove City Lofts. It's a $21 million deal.
Right. And we've looked through a bunch of sources on this. The main insight, I think, is seeing how a post-industrial city is trying to build its future, not, on bringing back old factories, but on something different, culture and strategic development.
Exactly. It feels like a real case study in collaboration, public-private partnerships, smart financing, careful site selection. And the hook for you listening is really seeing how they're using the arts, specifically as an economic engine downtown. It's pretty direct.
Yeah, that's the core idea. If you're interested in, say, municipal planning or complex real estate development, our mission here is to really break down the moving parts, like who did what, the developer, the local growth center, how did they cobble together the funding, and why the arts. This whole project, taking this, well, frankly, derelict property and turning it into 75, they call them hip Manhattan-style loft apartments.
Right.
It's meant to be like tangible proof that the city is turning a corner, shifting away from that old industrial past.
Okay, so let's get into it. This $21 million investment designed to really spark life back into downtown Gloversville. All right, first up, the players. Who's involved? On the private side, there's Kearney Realty and Development Group. They're based downstate in Baldwin, New York.
Okay.
Then you've got the public side. City leadership, naturally, Mayor Vincent DeSantis,
Yeah.
and this really key local group, the FCCRG.
Ah, yes, the Fulton County Center for Regional Growth. They pop up everywhere in the sources. Crucial entity.
Definitely. And there's this great little story and anecdote about how Kearney, the developer, even got interested in Gloversville back in 2019. He meets with Mayor DeSantis, and apparently, while they're talking, they get absolutely hammered by this freak storm.
Oh, wow. Like literally.
Yeah, the developer called it a microburst tropical storm, soaked them both, turned Kearney's umbrella inside out.
Haha. Okay. That's one way to make an impression. A bit of meteorological drama.
Right, and Kearney apparently took it as a sign, said something like, "Mayor, this means good luck, I have to come back up here and work."
And did he?
He did. Came back 6 months later, which, for this kind of project, that's actually pretty quick.
That is fast. It suggests things were aligned already.
Well, and that points to the real story, beyond the weather omen. It's about how effective those local partners were, especially the FCCRG.
Exactly. That's the division of labor we see. Kearney is the builder, the one doing the transformation. But the FCCRG, they were the ones who, as the sources say, really paved the way.
How so?
Property acquisitions, sorting out the financing maze, getting the community on board. They basically de-risked the whole thing for Kearney.
And the site itself. It wasn't exactly straightforward, was it?
No, not at all. It was a major headache, right across from City Hall, but vacant since 2009. Used to be a supermarket, then a call center, then nothing.
Right.
The owner defaulted on the mortgage, so you had Lehman's, back taxes piling up, the kind of mess that usually scares developers away for good.
So how did they solve that?
That was the FCCRG's big move. Their president, Ronald Peters, apparently did some very skillful negotiating. He worked with the owners, the lenders, managed to head off a foreclosure, which allowed the FCCRG to actually take ownership first. Clean title.
I see. So they absorbed the initial risk and complexity.
Precisely. Kearney himself called it amazing work. It meant they achieved site control, which was the absolute prerequisite. Kearney could then buy it from the FCCRG in March 2022 and just focus on building.
So that local groundwork, that intervention, was really the key to turning that rainy day meeting into a multi-million-dollar project.
Couldn't have happened without it.
Right.
And once they had that site control, the location itself became a huge asset.
Strategically.
Yeah, look where it is. It's positioned perfectly to act as a connector. It helps link Main Street over towards Trail Station Park, near the creek and City Hall. It's about stitching the downtown back together, encouraging foot traffic.
Makes sense. And construction moved fast, you said. The old building came down in fall 2023. Then they had a mild winter, which must have helped.
Big help, yeah. Kept things moving. By the next summer, so summer of 24, they were already putting on the final touches, masonry, siding, trim, getting that 4-story structure finished up.
And what about the immediate economic effects? During construction.
That's another important angle. The sources highlight that they used mostly local workers.
Oh, good.
Plumbers, electricians, HVAC crews.
Yeah.
Estimates are around 250 to 300 jobs created just during the build phase. That's direct cash flow into the local economy.
Yeah, that's significant.
Yeah.
And I was struck by the sustainability angle, too. Seems like they were really thinking long term.
They really were. It's not just standard construction. This building is designed to use zero fossil fuels.
Zero.
Well, they've got increased insulation, obviously, but the main system is geothermal heat. And there's an electric source heat pump as a backup, but the core idea is no gas lines needed. It's all electric, powered by geothermal.
That's quite a commitment. Reduces long-term operating costs, too, I imagine.
Definitely. And it aligns with, broader environmental goals.
Yeah.
So the final building, 4 stories, 75 apartments. They're aiming for occupancy by summer 2025.
And it's not just luxury apartments, right? There's a mix.
Correct. It's mixed income. Rents are tiered. They're targeting folks earning up to, I think, 60 to 95% of the area's median income. So aiming for a range of residents.
Okay, that mixed income piece is interesting and leads right into what feels like the core strategy here, the thing that makes it different, the arts catalyst.
Yes. This is where it moves beyond just, building apartments. They're intentionally trying to create a cultural hub.
How specifically?
Well, the numbers are clear. 37 of those 75 units, that's almost half, are specifically set aside for tenants involved in artistic or literary work.
Wow, nearly half. So they're actively recruiting artists and writers.
Seems so. It's a deliberate curation of the resident base.
Why artists, though? I mean, what's the economic thinking there? Did the sources elaborate?
Yeah, it's based on a model that's worked elsewhere. The idea is that artists aren't just passive residents. They tend to be active economic agents.
How so?
They start small businesses, studios, they use local shops and cafes, they organize events. They basically generate buzz and foot traffic. It enhances the quality of life, which then attracts other kinds of commercial interest in residents. So the building itself becomes this creative engine.
And it's not just the apartments, right? There are other art spaces built in.
Absolutely. That's key. They've included space for an art gallery right on the ground floor, facing Main Street for visibility.
Smart.
And an arts office, too. The gallery isn't just for tenants. It's meant to draw people downtown, showcase local talent, become a destination in itself.
Has this developer, Kearney, done this before?
Yes, they have a track record. Their project Loft on Main in Peekskill won an award for exactly this kind of arts-driven revitalization, so it's a tested concept for them.
Okay, it makes a lot more sense when you framed it against Gloversville's history. This huge leather manufacturing past.
Right, the Glove City. Thriving late 19th, early 20th century. Then, like so many industrial towns, manufacturing moves overseas, and you get this long, slow decline hitting rock bottom in the 90s.
So this is the pivot.
It's the pivot. Mayor DeSantis talks about turning Gloversville into a 21st century post-industrial community on the verge of a renaissance. Instead of relying on leather gloves, they're leveraging culture. And this Glove City Lofts project is positioned as the tangible proof, as he put it.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate for a second. It sounds great, but what about the risks? I mean, are we sure the local market can absorb 75 new, relatively upscale lofts, even with artists? What if vacancy rates are high? Couldn't that backfire?
That's a fair question, a really important one. The sources sort of point to 2 mitigating factors. First, that mixed income structure we mentioned. It provides a wider pool of potential renters. It's not solely dependent on the high end.
Okay.
Second, and maybe more critically, the public money involved. That $1.25 million from the state DRI grant, that wasn't given lightly.
Right, there's due diligence.
Exactly. These state grants require extensive market studies, proof of need, feasibility analyses. The state needed convincing that this wasn't just a speculative gamble, so that public investment acts as a kind of validation of the market potential.
Okay, good point. And that state money is the perfect segue. Let's talk funding. $21 million. That's a serious number for a project like this in Gloversville. The sources confirm it's fully funded, which is impressive.
Right.
How do they pull that together?
It's definitely a complex puzzle. That state funding you mentioned is a cornerstone piece. $1.25 million came from New York State's Downtown Revitalization Initiative, the DRA program. They won that grant award in December 2021.
Okay, $1.25 million from the state DRI.
Right. But what's really interesting is the history before that. Getting that DRI grant, that often means a town is already shovel-ready. They've done their homework.
Grand work.
Yeah. Gloversville had apparently secured about $8 million in other grants for various downtown projects in the 5 years leading up to the DRI application.
Wow, $8 million before the DRI.
Seems so. That prior investment was likely crucial for making their DRI application competitive. It showed commitment, progress, a track record. It built the foundation to win the bigger prize.
Okay, so the $1.25 million DRI grant is anchored by that previous $8 millers in groundwork. But that still leaves quite a lot of the $21 million. Nearly $20 million more. Where did that come from?
Right, that's where the rest of the stack comes in. The sources mention another $7 million secured through a mix of tax credits and private investment.
Okay, tax credits. That sounds complicated.
It usually is. And this
Yeah.
is where an entity like the FCCRG becomes absolutely invaluable again, their financial expertise.
Can you give us a sense of how that works? How do tax credits help bring in millions?
Well, the genius is in layering different funding sources. That $7 million likely involves things like specialized historic tax credits, maybe low-income housing tax credits, LIHTC, they're called.
LIHTC. Okay.
These are technical tools. They offer tax benefits that make the project attractive to banks or institutional investors who buy the credits. But investors usually only come in after foundational public money, like that DRI grant, is locked down. It reduces their risk.
I see.
So the FCCRG's job is to identify all these potential streams, state grants, federal tax credits, private equity, and then assemble them into a package that actually works. That makes the numbers add up for everyone. They turn that complexity into a viable investment.
Okay. And what about ongoing finances, like local taxes?
Good question. There's mention of a pilot agreement, PILOT.
Payment in lieu of taxes.
Exactly. It's a common tool for these kinds of developments.
Yeah.
Kearney's company won't pay standard property taxes immediately. Instead, they'll pay a set amount, starting at $75,000 in the first year after completion.
And that amount increases over time.
Yeah, typically. In this case, it goes up by 2% annually for the duration of the agreement. It ramps up as the project, hopefully, stabilizes and succeeds. It helps manage the developer's costs up front while still ensuring a contribution to the city.
All right, so the project is underway, occupancy expected next summer. But it sounds like Kearney isn't stopping there.
No, seems like this was always planned as potentially the first step. The developer, Kearney, envisioned a phase 2 from early on.
Really? What does that involve?
The sources say Kearney Realty actually subdivided the lot when they bought it. The plan is to build a second identical building right next to the first one.
Wow, doubling down.
Essentially, yeah. It would mirror the current building, forming an L-shaped footprint overall. That would significantly boost the number of units and the arts presence right there. It signals a real long-term bet on Gloversville.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the core takeaway for our listeners from this Gloversville example?
I think for anyone looking at post-industrial revitalization, Gloversville really highlights a potent, maybe replicable three-part formula. First, you absolutely need that local capacity to secure difficult but strategic sites. That FCCRG role was indispensable in navigating the mess, gaining site control.
Right, the groundwork.
Second, the financing piece. You have to be adept at leveraging public and private funds. Using smaller local grants to build credibility for bigger state programs like the DRI, and then using that to unlock tax credits and private investment, it's a layered approach.
Okay, site control, complex finance.
Yeah.
And the third part.
And third, the intentional use of culture. Not just hoping artists show up, but actively building infrastructure for them, reserving units, creating gallery space, using the arts as a specific economic catalyst to boost quality of life and draw further investment.
Yeah, that focus is really striking. And it connects to something else I saw mentioned, the idea that after a town gets itself ready, it has to market itself effectively. This project, Glove City Lofts, it feels like it does both things at once. It is the revitalization, the physical change. But because of its high visibility, its sustainability features, its explicit arts focus, it's also the city's best marketing campaign.
That's a great way to put it. It's substance and story.
So here's maybe the final thought for you, the listener, to consider. Gloversville used its industrial past to unlock funding, and it's investing heavily in a specific cultural future with these lofts as tangible proof. So the question becomes, if your local post-industrial town suddenly got control of a key downtown site tomorrow, what specific lever of financial, cultural, maybe something else entirely would you pull first to send that same clear signal of a serious long-term comeback to the private sector? What's the equivalent tangible proof needed where you are?